Wednesday, August 21st. This is the DEI Advisory Committee meeting. We'll start with attendance. We'll go around the room and say who's here. William, we will start with you. Just name and who you represent, who you are.
My name is William Moss, and I'm a North Kingstown High School student.
What year?
I'm a junior.
Gonna be a junior.
Good for you.
All right. Rob Mezzanotte, Assistant Superintendent. Welcome back.
Erin Earl, School Committee Chair. Still in summer, not willing to admit that it's not.
Jennifer Lima, School Committee member.
Mary Law Presti, Parent Advocate.
Victoria Cormier, Junior at North Kingstown High School.
Jacqueline Waller, teacher at DMS.
Dave Oven, teacher at DMS.
Okay, awesome. Thank you all for coming, especially in.
Do you have our name thingies?
What? Oh, yes. We need to do this for all of them. Thank you all for coming, especially in August, when I know.
If you can't find them, it's okay, Rob, but if they're easy.
Are enjoying the last gasp of summer, even though it was 50 degrees this morning. We have not met since May, believe it or not. It's been a while. I was going back through to dig things out. So the first thing to do is to approve the minutes of the May meeting. Can I get a motion to approve? Dave? Second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Anybody remembers May? Okay. All right, anybody opposed? Okay, awesome. So, I figured today is kind of gonna be like a catch up and a reset for like where we're going in the upcoming year. So a lot of stuff that's on the agenda today, we may or may not get to, but I just kind of wanted to like bring everybody back into, where we've been and where we are going. The first thing on the agenda is an update and a discussion on the vision statement. So I'll give Rob a minute to find everybody's cards. And then he can give us an update on it.
Am I just passing?
Yeah, just slide them.
Thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay.
All right, just 1 second. All right. So, equity vision statement. All right, so just to kind of refresh everyone's memory, because it's been a while since we discussed it. The equity vision statement was, we were working on, had been part of a lengthy process where we drafted a statement, we discussed it, you know, on as part of this committee. We also sought feedback from, you know, stakeholders across the district, students, faculty members, staff, families, and we collected a lot of information. You might remember probably talking about that as part of our group, all the feedback we received, all the comments we gathered, and just vetted through that process pretty extensively. I had some great discussions. I remember, you know, having, you know, some really spirited discussions, worthwhile discussions around what we want to see come through in the statement and so on and so forth. And we drafted a statement that we essentially brought to the next step of the process was to bring it to the administrative team in our district and to get feedback from them. So just as a reminder, because I know that it's been a long time, and so if I guess I'll read the statement that we had drafted just to refresh everyone's memory of what we had.
Is that hard?
I'm sorry?
Do you want to put it up or just for some visual?
Yeah, I could.
learners, or-
Thank you.
If it's too hard, it's okay.
No, it's okay. It's still like in notes form, so it just looks not. It's in notes
Yeah.
form. You know what I mean? So you'll see my.
Your notes.
Yeah. Yeah, I can get it. Yeah. Just give it a sec. Hello, Shabbat.
They're so mad at you. Your name thing should be in there somewhere.
How you doing?
How are you?
Good. How's everyone?
Dave's
Good,
excited to be
good.
here today.
People are ready to go back.
Oh, really? Nothing. It's like hot news.
Oh, she announced that.
Oh, no, you're talking about it. Never mind. Hey, you hear me? I thought you were talking about someone else.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Alright, so, this is what we had talked about at our last meeting. This is the statement we discussed. Well, I'll read it aloud so we can all refresh our memories. So, in North Kingstown schools, we envision a learning community where all belong. Members of the NK educational community of all races, ethnicities, languages, religions, socioeconomic status, genders, gender identities or expressions, countries of ancestral origin, sexual orientations, interrupted education status, abilities or backgrounds, will thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. We commit to fostering an inclusive and equitable educational environment that celebrates diversity, embraces individual strengths, and ensures that all are empowered to reach their full potential. Everyone in our community will apply their learning in personally meaningful and socially responsible ways. Together, we commit to crafting intentional policies, practices, and community partnerships to eliminate disparities, promote empathy and kindness, and cultivate a culture of belonging. Our students will demonstrate knowledge and skills to be compassionate collaborators, informed and critical thinkers, and engaged global citizens. So, for the purposes of kind of picking up where we left off, I thought it would be good to just share the feedback that we got from the administrative team. So we brought this in front of the administrative team, which consists of, it's our admin council team, which consists of our building level administration throughout the district, our superintendent, our pupil personnel director, our chief operating officer. And we had a discussion around this. We read the statement out loud. Overall, the team felt they were very supportive of the message of equity that comes through in this. They were very supportive of the statements in terms of the beliefs and where they're rooted in equity and as vision, as a goal. They're very consistent with the values that our team believes in and discusses all the time about how we can best, again, grow the level of equity in our district and also raise the achievement of all of our students. They expressed a few concerns. One of them is they were concerned, and again, this is an outside, I thought it was interesting hearing from them because we have had a lot of discussions in our group, which has been really deep discussions that we're vetting through feedback and we're looking at all these. This was more of an outside group that hadn't been a part of any of this, and they were just kind of like hearing it for the first time. One of the things that they did say is they were concerned that the message of equity was getting a bit lost with the second sentence, which includes the list of all of the list of different groups. And they felt like just hearing it for the first time that stood out to them hearing it as like the overwhelming message of the sentence and that, or the statement, and that the message of equity that's kind of in the statement doesn't come through as loudly, is one of the things that they expressed. Again, just their feeling is that they were concerned that the message might get lost because of that being sort of the immediate focus of the sentence. Another thing they mentioned, and this was just kind of in discussion, was the sentence that said, everyone in our community will apply their learning in personally meaningful and socially responsible ways. They looked at that as a concern from two standpoints. One is they felt it was pretty consistent with the statement before, that it didn't necessarily, they weren't sure how it differentiated that much from the sentence that was right before it. And secondly, they questioned the phrase socially responsible, and they brought up the fact of like, how do we define that? Is that something that's an individual definition of what's socially responsible? Is it something that's more a collective understanding of that? But how is that defined? And how will we kind of ultimately, how's that determined? What is socially responsible? Because that can mean different things to different people. So that was the second concern that they brought up. And then the third concern they brought up was just more on, this was more of a general statement of the scope, that the phrase eliminate disparities. 100% on board with pursuing that, with having a mission in that respect, but they worried a little bit that was such a lofty goal that it might not be, I mean, to eliminate all disparities, almost, one person used the word like almost utopian, like I'm not sure that can ever be something that's really ever achieved, to eliminate all disparities, and that they wonder if that's gonna take away from some of the meaning with such a, with a phrase such as that. So anyway, that was kind of the feedback they gave. But again, I want to end how I began in terms of the team is very committed and very supportive of where we're going with this. This was just kind of like their feedback from a standpoint of,
That's like good constructive
Yeah,
feedback.
there
It's
you go.
okay.
All right.
You can like something and have constructive feedback. So I think that's
there you go.
awesome.
All right.
And I think a lot of, or several of those were things that we had discussed internally also when we were going through, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah.
Back to March.
Yeah, I think those are
So,
all
and I think, I don't know if you
worth considering.
mentioned this, Rob, but I think one of the things, because I was in that meeting, they said because you're listing out so many words, they were concerned that, you know, if we left something out, did we leave it out on purpose, because we're
Yep.
listing everything out.
So again, like, and this is just their feedback. They thought the statement, their feedback was that the statement, the first sentence in it they could go straight to the third sentence, and that the sentence that includes all that, and that was just their take on how it read to them.
I understand that about the second sentence, and I think when we spoke about it last time, we included that specifically so that people would feel represented, and we put maybe a caveat at the bottom which stated, if you don't see yourself represented in the statement, please let us know, but maybe just, if that's their feedback, to just eliminate it. I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. I do
Another-
think, however, I'm so sorry.
No, go.
No, it's okay. You were still talking. That's my interruption. You keep going and then
I
I go.
do think that the eliminate disparities, however, and the scope of it, is kind of addressed in the first sentence, because it is what we envision. We would envision something that's ideal and perfect and utopian. Ideally, I mean, will we get there? I don't know, but we can try.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what Dave just said about the second part. Like, I understand that, but like a vision statement to me is like, what is our like the ideal vision? Like, and that's kind of that piece. So I'm comfortable with leaving that as is. I do understand the feedback about not listing different things, but I also get concerned that if we don't, like, I do think it's an educational opportunity in the statement to help educate folks, because I don't think that everyone kind of understands sometimes the concept of equity, and that they don't understand of what that means. Like, I think they sometimes pigeonhole it into just some of the categories and not all of them. But I do hear the feedback about maybe it's too early in the statement. You know, so maybe there's a way to flip around the order or something where it could go maybe later. So like if somebody reads just the first couple of sentences, you know, that's really the main core, and then maybe there's a way we could work in something about, you know, the different subcategories that we identified, maybe in a different place in the statement. It's one consideration instead of just completely erasing it. And then Shivali, to that other point of like, did we forget something, did we not? To me, it's a living document, and so if we do find that, you know, we didn't include something that maybe should have been, we do have the opportunity to add it, I would be cautious to just remove it completely though, because I think what I've learned in this town is that people don't fully understand what we're talking about and that it's an education moment. And so if it did come out, it would need to be somewhere else for me, like in the space. But I do think where we are as a community in North Kingstown, it's kind of important to be overly explaining things versus not. So those are some of my thoughts.
I think one suggestion was somebody said they understood why it was listed, but because of how it comes in the big sentence, one of the suggestion I think, Rob, they made was to make that all a link. It was just a creative idea, to make it a link, which then goes to all of those that we could be running, could be a running list and it can be added. But then again, if someone can't click the link, they don't see it, but that was just an idea that came up in that meeting.
I wonder if, like a non-discrimination policy that we put in a smaller font at the bottom of a page, if that could maybe be placed there. That way, any hard copies, it would have that available. It's easily amendable if someone feels they are not represented, to include it there, and then it's still part of the statement without being kind of an interrupter of the statement.
For me, it goes back to, like, the point of the equity vision statement is to address equity, and it's to just address the disparities specifically in terms of, like, historically marginalized or excluded communities. So to not address that in the statement, whether by denoting them specifically or by making a statement to that effect, makes it not an equity statement in terms of the equity that we're trying to address here. And so I think, like, if you look at other districts who have done equity statements, they do either list out like this, or they make a statement to the effect of, you know, like it's not just all, it's not just saying all, it's specifically like addressing that we're trying to eliminate disparities for those populations that have historically had, you know, underrepresentation or whatever. So I understand, like, maybe not the first sentence, like, that makes sense, you know, but I think to take that out waters down the purpose of what we're trying to address here.
So in the second sentence, I believe this was the working document at the March meeting.
Yep.
Which was my first meeting, and then I had shared that several weeks after that, I wasn't going to be able to, or the next month, I wasn't going to be able to come to the next meeting because I was going to be attending the National Disability Policy Seminar in Washington, D.C., which I did. And I don't think I reported out on that because I think the next meeting I came to in May, we didn't go over this. And so my task was to find out specifically under the word ability, is it abilities or is it disabilities? And it was pretty loud and clear, disabilities. People who living with disabilities, whole range, have claimed that term, and that is really important. So I think to specifically indicate disabilities, and just as speaking as a parent of a child who was in the district for 14 years with a profound disability, that was really significant. But that was pretty loud and clear. And I can, you know, even at the next meeting, bring, if there's more information, but like I think like Shivali mentioned, like links. Shivali, when you said links, did you mean to like each of those different
No,
items?
I think somebody who brought this up, it wasn't my idea, so I wanna make sure I give credit to them, was to kinda hyperlink the word all, which then would go to a different doc that lists all that and more as we add.
Yeah.
Which is similar to what you were saying, kinda like have an asterisk on the all and then
You have it at the bottom.
it lists everything.
But I hear you that community from that conference that you went to, definitely that word disability is an important word for them seeing themselves in places. Is that what you're saying?
And this was not like a small group. There were well over 800 people at the conference from, it was really kind of neat because it was from all over the United States.
It's good to know. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mary.
What was the conference again?
Disability Policy Seminar. They have it in Washington every year, like second week in April.
Does anyone else want to? Yeah, Claire.
Oh, I was gonna see if anyone wants to fight me about the glaring lack of Oxford comma at the end. Cause I will battle it. Yeah, I know, cause I know Dave will fight me on it.
Oxford comma.
You wanna hear?
Read it.
Right
I was
here?
gonna say, no, we don't.
Is it that one?
That's the one.
All right, I'm off the
Okay.
committee, thank you, it's been nice.
Is that the comma before the conjunction
Yeah, you
and?
need it right there.
Informed and critical thinkers, comma, and Oxford comma.
I gotta be honest, I've never known that actual rule of when to use it.
Well, it's controversial
Yeah.
It
It
is.
is.
in the
Okay.
English major world.
Okay.
Um,
I'll defer to you on that. I'm not gonna. I'm
That was
not gonna-
actually, that was
Sorry,
actually
fights
my
on
favorite
Facebook.
part about reading all the feedback that all the people gave. You could most certainly see where the English majors flew in.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
they were flying in and they were giving, like it was great feedback, but I was like, oh, there is a difference in the world and English majors have an opinion and I love that.
I remember there was one who was specifically like, you need a comma here, you need a
Yeah.
this, like it was very, was that you, Jacqueline, who did that?
I don't think so, but
Alright, I noted it in our comments.
thank you for noting it.
And then we can decide.
So are we opposed to like, pulling out that sentence and making it like bullet points, or we want a full sentence still?
With the second sentence, you mean?
Yeah, pulling out and moving it to the end, which I think is a nice compromise in terms of the flow of the statement, while still including the things we think are very important.
Do you have a preference?
I like bullet points because it's easier on the eye, but I do not care
Mhm.
that much.
That's a good point.
I love bullet points. I'll be honest with you.
Okay, great.
Cause I do think they read easier.
Yeah.
But I also know that like, if I'm thinking about, I guess the,
bored, so I'm playing around
yeah,
with
just
it.
like space and things like, yeah, I do like that. I guess I'd have to look and see how it looks a little bit.
I mean, it might look silly if you're like scrolling and you're like,
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
list and the
yeah,
list
yeah,
and the list,
yeah.
but.
That's so funny, you can't see me scroll up. I was like, I'm doing it for you right now. Other way, down, sorry.
Okay.
There you go. I left the original one, so this is
Okay,
the
sure.
original one,
Yeah,
and now I'm playing
yeah.
around with this one, and then I'll do Dave's version, and we can see what visually we like. Cause it does sound, Jen, like the committee is respectfully disagreeing with the feedback that we got of eliminating it. Like it sounds like it's important somehow to have it in, is that the vibe?
I think so.
Yeah.
Morgan and Victoria, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that it's important to have that in there, in the statement, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree, because I think Mr. Oven, you said it, like in the March meeting, you said, like, people like it when they have like their certain like thing, like, talked about.
Scene, kind of vibe.
Yeah,
Do we say in the statement or separate from the statement, kind of what,
Or at the end of the statement.
or at the end of, I'm not saying at the end of the statement?
I think it might make sense to have it at the end of the statement or like in like the list like that, just because like if you're looking for it to be for like everyone in the district, it might make sense to have it less of a giant paragraph, so people can all kind of be able to interpret it in their own ways.
Yeah, the bullets are not the vibe. I'm usually a bullet girly, but like it's just long.
But what about bullets at the end? How does it like feel drastically different?
We'll try. I think, yeah, okay, let's try that.
Yeah, like, I'm just looking at like Brookline, Mass, right? Educational equity. The public schools of Brookline are committed to identifying blah, blah, blah. To this end, we create policies and practices, blah, blah, blah. And then they say every student, regardless of race, color, religion, gender, sexual orientation, marital status, age, national origin, disability, economic source. So they kind of have like a whole list like we do. And they just have it in a sentence.
In a sense.
In a
Mhm.
sentence.
How do they end? How does it end?
Meets our standards for achievement, participation, and growth. So they kind of are doing it like we do.
Okay, yeah.
Is that the last sentence in the overall statement?
No, that's the first sentence.
That's the first sentence.
Yeah, well, the public schools of Brookline are committed to identifying and eliminating barriers to educational achievement in our schools. To this end, we create policies and practices that are fair and just and provide educational opportunities to ensure that every student, regardless of race, color, religion, gender, sexual orientation, marital status, age, national origin, disability, or economic status, meets our standards for achievement, participation, and growth. And then it goes into,
That's a shorter list
That's
than
one
we have,
sentence?
though.
Yeah.
It is a shorter list.
That's
Yeah.
a much shorter list than what we
There's
have.
gotta be a semicolon
Yeah.
in there.
there is a period after schools,
Okay.
and then the rest of that is one sentence with a lot of comments.
Cause they're leaving a lot of groups out on that one. Do
Yeah.
they-
Oh,
they have
yeah.
any,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, I'm just trying to see how some of these other districts do it. student backgrounds, disability, racial, ethnic, religious, gender identity, class, traumatic experiences do not limit teacher expectations of student outcomes.
Right.
What were you gonna say, Rob? That you then stopped him?
It was interesting because I don't want the message of equity to get lost. I'm concerned about that a little bit.
Can
And
you
that's not to
expand?
say that that's not to say that I don't think it's valid or worthwhile to mention explicitly various groups. But I do wonder a little bit that just from Shivali and I both had the experience of talking to just our administrative team about it, but like their reaction to reading the sentence was literally like they just said like the reading of the groups they couldn't get, once that was done they were like that was the statement. The rest of the statement was kind of like lost to them. You know, like the message of equity, and then when they looked at it further, they're like, yeah, that part sounds great, but the message got lost in the long list of the so many groups. That was just the feedback we got, and that, again, what that kind of made me worry about a little bit was that we are obviously very invested in this work. That's why we're part of this group. But this is a statement that's going to be traveling very broadly among much larger group of people. I worry about it getting lost a little bit.
I hear you on that. I would also disagree though that if somebody only hears that part, like that's progress, right? If they only hear the list of the different identities, because at least that's saying that like they could connect that concept of like, okay, we're trying to make this more equal for all of these types of people. So like I agree but disagree. Like I do think the list is long and I think it's front heavy, but I think that for the marginalized populations that are going to question, is this statement for me or are they talking about me? Like it's more important to cater to that group than maybe people that will think it's long.
Yeah, I hear
I
what
don't-
you're saying, Ed, but I wonder if it turns those people off and we kinda have to compromise with the admin team and the general community members so that they do get that whole statement. And then those people who might say, well, are they really talking about me, can look elsewhere and say, yes, they did, they listed me, they listed all religions, or they listed disability, or we haven't listed trauma, which is an interesting one that could be added. If that is somewhere else, we have our main statement, and then I know I would look for certain things that I feel I might belong to that I could potentially be discriminated for, and I would go there and say, all right, they did include me on that, without having to interrupt the flow of the initial statement.
So I gave, there's 4 visual options now.
Thank you.
There's probably more versions. So option 1 is what we had originally.
Great.
Option 2 is the bulleted list, but like we need to make it that set. It's just, I literally just copied and pasted it. We need to add some colons and some other punctuation. You would tell us which one. Option 3 is when you do the suggestion that Dave had about putting the asterisks next to all and then listing them below. And then option 4, I just chunked it. And so I just took it and made like visual paragraphs, kind of where the breaks made sense to me. So it's the same as option 1, but with like some spacing breaks. But I'm happy to make more options if people have other ideas or things that they visually want to see.
There's also the hyperlink.
Yes. I don't love that one personally. Not that it, because I feel like anytime you add additional steps to something, like it might not happen, but also like if the link breaks or if, you know, like we talk about that a lot in the policy subcommittee, that we just don't like hyperlinking to stuff because then it's not ever long. Like you have to worry about multiple things. And so that one makes me nervous. Like I would be much more comfortable with your suggestion with option 3 versus hyperlinking it somewhere. Not that we couldn't have a
No, I
link
agree
that
with that.
expands, but that made me nervous.
And we could do that also,
Yeah,
like for
in
an
addition to,
additional
yeah,
description
yeah.
on like what those categories are.
Yeah.
Like looking at that, I feel like the bullet points is yucky, just in my eye,
Yeah,
like, I don't
agree.
like that, it like commoditizes it in
Mhm.
some way, but I like option 4, because it was option 4, scroll down, Erin.
Does anybody wanna fight for option 2, which is bullets, or should we erase it? Bullets
Got it.
gone,
Straight
you
through,
are bullet
straight
lovers, okay, too much, so goodbye, option 2, you don't exist to us anymore.
Now options 4 not all in one thing, but it kind of like breaks it out so that like
Yeah,
the
right.
message is there, but also the groups are not a afterthought, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I think I had mentioned earlier that you could do is if you wanted to really, I hear you, Rob, on the part about like really centering the equity piece of the equity vision statement, and so, you know, saying like in North Kingstown schools, we envision a learning community where all belong, like, and then you could move paragraph 3 to be paragraph 2, where you could say, we commit to fostering an inclusive and equitable educational environment that celebrates diversity, embraces individual strengths, and ensures that all are empowered to reach their full potential.
Mhm.
And then you could like tweak the next sentence a little bit and then have the list and then go from there, cause at least then you get the like, it brings up the like what we are committed to and what like why we're trying to do this kind of energy. Oh, so it's kind of a compromise maybe.
So you're saying put the
Put the
we
third
commit to
paragraph.
fostering.
Yeah, you could move that
above.
up. And then you just need to tweak the third one to make sense. Like the list of identities.
Mhm.
I think you just tweak the beginning of that sentence a little.
Members of the
Here, I'll do it for y'all visually down here. I'll make an option, whatever. But let's magnify that one giant. And we can like, if you scroll down, there's an option button now. Wait, it didn't do
I
it.
thought you were moving that up.
I did. My Wi-Fi is spinning.
You want me to do it?
Yeah. It'll probably like get mad in a second because I did it and then, but yeah, I just copied and pasted that and put it up.
So Rob, what's the next step after this?
Elementary kids need to read it.
Elementary kids?
Yeah, that's what you said.
Mhm.
That's what your
We
doc
said
said.
that?
Yeah. On page 2 of your notes, it says, next steps, bring to admins for feedback and elementary students to review for coherence. It's up on the top.
Okay.
It was last year,
Oh,
so.
sure.
It's okay. I wouldn't have remembered, except I read it on your doc.
Okay.
Good thing you made a note.
Where is it?
It's on page,
Do a control F, look for elementary, you can find it.
keep going. Nope, it's underneath that, underneath that. There.
Bring elementary student review for
Mhm.
coherence.
That's it, and then you
And
click.
I remember the conversation, and probably, it's my fault probably, we had talked about how we wanted to make sure that all members of the community could understand it. And so I think we had talked about bringing it to like the younger grades to see if they understood the words and understood the statement, or if their language wasn't,
I think this is gonna not,
it's not good enough then.
okay. Well, what do you think? I mean, I spending a fair amount of time in elementary schools, this is a pretty complex statement.
And then we have to make it simpler, in my opinion.
Okay.
That's like a huge thing about being inclusive is like making sure that everyone in our community, including our youngest learners, understand something, right?
Our youngest learners?
I mean, all our learners,
Okay.
but we were talking about elementary.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
I just know that, like, you know, when you're talking about us getting a statement down to,
You can do
down
it.
to that.
You can get it to second grade level.
I hear you, Rob, I hear you. You read this to my son and he'd be like, do you think a shark could take on an orca?
Right.
You know, at the end.
Right.
I'd be like,
I could just,
Yes.
like, the
Also.
I'm picturing reading this in front of a room of elementary kids, and the that's the response you get.
I think you're underestimating them.
we're gonna get a
Let's
lesson
find
about
out.
the lack of
Let's
sharks
find
in this
out.
statement.
I think it's a very
We need more,
important
more
thing.
sharks.
Yeah,
More
I
crystal
do
sharks.
think everybody needs to, it needs to be something that everybody at least can understand at some level, right? Like, that, what our vision is, like, if you asked somebody in the elementary school, like, what does equity mean in this district, that they could say, it means, even if they don't recite this, that they would know that it meant something to them.
I'd imagine there's an AI program that could
I just
take
was
our
doing
It
it. I was
totally
literally
can,
just
yeah.
doing it.
do it to a
That sounds
kindergarten, second grade level.
awful and dystopian and I'm not for it.
It's okay. Okay.
I don't want you one bit.
I was just
Don't
gonna put it into
ChatGPT
the
this.
internet and say, make this at a second grade level.
You
second
can
grade
do
reading
that,
level.
and
The
it
first-
actually
the
does
first-
it really
the
well.
first
You can
part of
manually
this-
do it for me if you want.
Absolutely. In North Kingstown Schools, we envision a learning community where all belong. Everyone's gonna get that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I am confident that we can do this. Like, and I think it's important because if we're gonna put it on banners, and if it's like this, right? Envision a world where there's a big banner like that. It's gonna be in all of our schools, right? It's gotta be to a place where the majority of our community can read and understand it. And if it's too highbrow or too complicated of language, I don't think that that is inclusive, which is the exact opposite of what we're trying to do, which is be equitable and be inclusive.
I have a fair amount of experience with lots of words on a banner, and I can tell you it's not a great one.
Oh, I'm not saying sign it. I'm just saying like
I'm not
we're
saying
gonna
sign.
in theory
I'm
put
saying, I'm not
equity
talking about
visions.
that. I'm talking about like mission statements.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We've all been part of those, right? At some point. My experience with them is that like it's a lot of words on a banner that sits on the wall. You know what I mean? So I'm agreeing with you actually,
Yeah.
Erin, because I think that like if we are gonna make this effective, then we need to pare it down. But I also know that we've done the opposite in our work here. I think we've made this more robust in the time that we've had our discussion.
So are you saying that we go through this statement, we make sure that it is accessible to our youngest learners, and that's like the draft, that's like the final copy? Or are you saying that we have a version?
I just wanted their feedback. So like,
Oh, okay.
like I thought my suggestion I think was, and I'm trying to remember back to whenever I said it in April or May or whenever. Like say we read it to fourth graders, right? And they go, oh, like, what's fostering?
Okay, I see.
Right? Then you switch the word fostering to a different word. Like I'm not looking to like, but like, you know, I do think that like genuinely like they could probably be like, oh, like, what do you mean by that? Or like, what about that? And then that gives us an opportunity to listen and maybe tweak it to make it so that it is more understandable. Like that's all. Like I'm not saying
so I
like
understand.
yeah, like just I think it'd be good to test it with tiny humans that are in our community. Because if we're saying all belong, our whole community, we're not just saying the high school, we're not just saying, like, we're saying our whole community. So that to me is K up, or pre-K even, but I'll stop at K though. Although Mayman would do it.
Erin, you mentioned highbrow earlier,
Yeah.
regarding AI and ChatGPT. Can I turn it to something a little more lowbrow,
Mhm.
just for a moment? William or Victoria, do you take French at school?
I take Spanish.
Do you take Spanish?
Yeah, I take Spanish.
You take Spanish as well. Well, ChatGPT.
Did you take French?
I did. ChatGPT, it was all everyone was talking about, well, still talking about, but in France, or in French, when you say ChatGPT, you say ChatGPT, because that's how you pronounce GPT and chat, ChatGPT. So all of these people
I'm so
in
excited for where
government,
the story's going.
all of these high people in government, and all of these techie people are on television, they keep saying ChatGPT, which means cat, I farted. GPT is I farted, and chat is cat.
I didn't see that. I was excited for where it was going, and I would not have put money on that one.
I took middle school.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
Oh, that's funny.
Have you told that one to the middle school kids? 'Cause
Of
they love it.
course.
Okay,
Of
yeah,
course.
yeah,
Of
yeah. Oh,
course.
yeah. They'll love that one. So okay. So what's our next step then? If we wanna make this elementary accessible?
If
Start
people
with
agree with
action.
that, if the committee doesn't agree with that, it's okay. That just
Well, I think
my
soliciting their
thought is,
feedback
yeah.
is totally
Yeah, I think
fine
it's good to
do.
get feedback from students.
Okay.
Yeah, we can chuck it out the window or not.
So
I'm not sure.
I'm gonna go backwards for a second, cause I like to check things off. We hadn't really decided on an option, right? We hadn't really done that yet,
That's true, we have not.
so maybe we wanna do that, or do we want, like, you know what I mean, like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That sentence is, paragraph is in there twice in option
Yeah.
5, right?
It's
So
because
it's-
my computer finally reconnected to the internet.
Okay, there we go.
I did have one question too about the actual statement. I know we had, and I cannot remember where we landed on this, so I'm not, if we landed it, just be like, no, Erin, you landed that. On the very end of the statement, it says, our students will demonstrate, and I thought we had talked about, and in our notes, it says that we had talked about, like, changing it so that it was inclusive for all
Yes, we did.
people, and so, I know we went back and forth though, so again, I'm
Well-
not trying to rehab this conversation, I literally don't remember.
My remembrance
if we
of it
left
was
or
that
not.
we moved the entirety of the statement to be all, but we
Yep.
wanted to keep the one statement at the end to be student focused.
Okay,
That was my recollection of what we talked about. Because we had originally
Alright.
we
Yeah, yeah,
originally made
yeah.
the statement totally
yep,
student.
and then we'd switched.
And then we had said, all right, we don't wanna make it all student focused, we wanna make it everybody, but we did wanna include one sentence that was student focused. That was my,
That feels right.
yeah.
What if we changed it though, I don't, and this is a weird personal preference, I don't like taking like ownership of stuff, so like our students, like we don't, like what if it said like North Kingstown students will demonstrate, or like we strive for North Kingstown students too, or like something like that, like instead of our students, like it just seems, that sentence sounds weird to me.
Okay, it says our community too.
I don't like that either. No, I'm joking. I don't know, that one doesn't bother me as much, maybe we could change both, but the our students one, it just doesn't, I don't know, to be honest.
I was actually going back to what you said about like the personally meaningful and socially responsible ways, like, cause also, like, if you're gonna say who determines what's socially responsible, who determines what's personally meaningful, right? So like, does that whole
Maybe we might wanna think about that.
sentence come out and we just leave it at together we commit to crafting intentional policies, practices, and
That was
procedures?
that was what we talked about off the top, that was one of the feedbacks, and yeah, I think it could come out, personally,
I do, what if we, I agree, I wonder if you move that apply their learning part, like maybe to the like our students will demonstrate knowledge and skills to be compassionate collaborators, informed critical thinkers, engaged global citizens, will apply their knowledge to, or like something, but we could also just,
Like, to me, those kind of look more like mission statement-y statements versus like equity vision statements. Those aren't necessarily equity.
which one are you talking about? The
Both that last one and the whole everyone in our community thing.
so you're willing to cut both.
That's, I have no idea what we were talking about in March, I'll be honest with you, because that was like 18 years ago.
It's good, we're seeing it with fresh
But like, if
eyes.
I
It's
look
good.
at it
It's good
today,
practice.
that's what I think, like that, those feel to me to be more general mission statement-y things. But it's just me.
Mm-hmm.
So wait,
You
what are
could
you
go.
proposing? You wanna cut?
I'm gonna show you.
Okay. thank
Sorry,
you.
I'm very
No, no,
visual,
Erin's
so
like-
it's hard.
Erin speaks Jen. She's
Yeah, I translate, it's with skills
Absolutely.
learned.
Don't worry,
over.
I got you.
So Jen is saying that we could go with this. Well, goodbye.
Maybe a strike through option or something.
I was just trying to get rid of it, cause I have it up top if we want it back. So Jen is willing to get rid of this and this.
Wow, we just cut a lot of this, my goodness.
It might not be bad though. It might be, but
No, it might not.
shorter might be better. So that's what, if we got rid of those two sentences, that's how it would read.
Oh, Jen, I like that, it was bold, it was a bold suggestion, I liked it. Like, cut half of it, I like it.
Yeah.
It's good. I think it's stronger.
I think
If
it is
we-
too.
If we wanted to meet the administration in the middle on the word eliminate disparities, you could say address disparities. Eliminate stronger and more like visionary, but I do always try to listen when people give feedback. So that could be if we wanted to agree, like if we wanted to say, okay, yeah, like that might be too much, address could be a middle ground on that one.
Their only comment on it was, and again, feel free to.
No, it's a legitimate statement.
It's
yeah.
just one of those things
It's
where
just
like.
how high do
from-
we wanna go?
Yeah, like eliminating disparities.
It's possible, right? Is it feasibly possible to eliminate disparity?
I would argue it's not even the point, but you know, that's just me.
Why?
Well, I just feel like, I just don't feel like you can ever predict, I feel like it's just, I don't know, I feel like the world is disparity and you mess with it, I don't know. And it's kind of the beauty of being alive. This is just me philosophically sitting here.
No, I kind of agree with
It
you.
says-
You know, like-
I just.
So it says disparities are differences in access to whatever this one's about healthcare, so just pretend it's differences in access to education, educational outcomes, and the quality of education among different groups. That's what disparities means.
Yeah. So maybe I'm with that committee just being like, is it possible to a point where we can even talk about it effectively right now? I don't think it's.
I think if we're gonna say eliminate disparities, that the district really needs to be committed to doing that work. And what comes to me, is something I got involved with last, fall when I spoke at the building subcommittee meeting about, plans that when they were, gonna have the bond issue for the new middle school, and I really spoke to the issue of accessibility, because I know how that impacted my son in a not positive way, like getting access to an elevator and being late for class, and so I think if we're going to say that, the district really needs to be committed to doing the work that's going to eliminate disparities, so possibly addressing them, and just, I just know, and again, I'm speaking from like my personal story. There's certain things you can eliminate disparities. If a child is physically disabled,
Right.
you know, you can't just say, okay, well, I'm gonna make this child, be mobile now. You
Right.
just, so there are certain things, so I would say, I think it would be bold and it would be strong, and I think it would really, challenge the district in a good way. So, and then just one other question, the fourth paragraph, Erin?
I
I
don't
know
have
at one
control,
point
Rob
you
has
did,
it. Sorry.
so
The
I,
fourth option, or?
well, I thought I
I'm
saw
editing,
somebody
but Rob
change,
moves
Yeah.
I
on
thought
that.
somebody changed abilities to disabilities, but it's back to abilities.
I didn't
Yeah,
change
we
it, I
didn't
just put
change
it on
it.
the bottom, but we can,
Okay.
I just put it in the notes, but we can change it
Okay.
if the committee.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's.
we
Yeah.
should
Yeah,
change
we,
that.
no, we will.
Yeah.
Yep,
We
I
will.
just wasn't changing the
Yep.
words at that point, but we can.
But
I
it's
didn't put the
definitely,
Oxford comment in either, but we can.
it's definitely cleaner and more concise.
I agree.
Erin, when you talked about having the statement accessible to everybody, is it up to the family, if English is not their primary language,
No.
to, like, how do we do that?
We would put it
No,
out
legally
in-
the schools would put it out in
yeah,
multiple
in different
languages.
languages, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
The website, the NKSD website also has the option to translate into
Yeah.
many, many languages.
Oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
good to
And
know.
that would be, so, English, Arabic,
That came out of
Chinese,
great
French,
advocacy from,
Yes.
Haitian Creole,
Community members
Hungarian,
make it cool.
Italian, 14 is Russians. March.
I personally am fine with eliminating disparities because you can eliminate a disparity. Like it is actually physically possible to eliminate specific disparities in a process. Like it's not like you have to eliminate, it's not like we're saying you eliminate all of them and like we make, but like you can actually tangibly work towards eliminating specific disparities. And when I Googled like how do you eliminate disparities in education, like the quick things that came up from that search talked about restorative justice and discipline, which we are actively working on in eliminating some of those disparities. It talked about support for low-income students. It talked about support for teacher salaries and benefits, which we worked on in our last negotiation. So like I do believe that like at least currently we are actively working to eliminate disparities, and so I think we should be a little visionary and whatnot, but
How about if we said eliminate educational disparities? Like I just looked this up too.
Yeah.
It says educational disparities are unfair differences in educational outcomes that can be seen in test scores, graduation rates, and other measures. They can be caused by a number of factors, and then they list factors. But
Could we say like strive to eliminate? I know we say commit to, but like will that fix it if we say like we strive, like this is what we're hoping for, like we strive to eliminate.
Remember that.
I hate that, and then I start checking email and making it, ooh, that's
Like,
not
oh no.
here.
no, no,
Promise,
no,
I promise
never
it's
didn't see,
here.
never didn't see, sorry.
Like crafting policies and community practices.
I think,
You make sense to
maybe
me.
like, if we wanna go halfway, I think like, cause to strive to eliminate means we're gonna try to eliminate them, but at least if we say we're gonna address them, we're gonna say that we're gonna
Address them.
tangibly do something.
Take them on, yeah.
Right, like we may not
Totally.
succeed in eliminating them, but if we address them, we're gonna at least do our
Elim-
part.
It is interesting too, because you could, I know we had talked about how do we show this to the community. You could have a website that had like whatever word we decide, address disparities, eliminate and then you could do how we're promoting empathy and kindness and how we're cultivating a culture of belonging. Like those are three very tangible things that you could then show quantitative like outcomes on. And so I am happy to change it, but I think we should stay strong. Like I think like it's not just good enough to address it. Like you need to eliminate it to make impact. But I would defer like I'm also not gonna like address is good enough.
Yeah.
I mean, commit and a vision are pretty strong, bold words too, like, so eliminate is in line with committing and envisioning, I think. Like, those are all like, nobody had a problem with envision or committing on, like, it was just
Should-
the.
and it should also be like craft, eliminate, promote, cultivate, sorry. It shouldn't be crafting
Yeah.
and then eliminating.
I was just doing
Right.
it.
Yeah.
It's the grammar, yeah. To
We do
craft.
craft.
Yeah, it's gotta be the same.
Oh, now we're back to fighting about craft again.
I don't love that word still, but I can live with it. Craft.
I hate that now. Looking to. Ugh.
I think you need personally I would do craft intentional policies and practices, comma, create community partnerships, and like there's like a missing.
There's a missing
Mhm.
verb there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Foundational policies, practices, and
Recommend-
community partnerships.
Develop practices like
Synonyms for cultivate: breed, fertilize, harvest, manage, plant, prepare, propagate, raise or tend. Ooh, bolster. What if we change craft to cultivate, cultivate to encourage? And then
implement policies, practices, and partnerships.
Okay, okay. Well, I like implement there instead of craft, yeah. Well, I think that fixes it. But commit to implement. Commit to implement?
Mm-mm.
No?
Commit to implement doesn't make sense.
No,
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
commit to,
it would just
like,
be
we
together
flat out
we
We implement.
commit.
No, together we commit, are committing to implement?
We'll commit to implement. Or
Together we
Together we will implement.
We will
implement.
We will promote empathy and kindness, cultivate a culture of belonging, and implement intentional policies, practices, and community partnerships to address disparate. Well,
About together we are committed to developing,
But then we have to change all the verbs.
I know, but
Eliminating,
you could
cultivating,
do developing
promoting, eliminating, cultivating.
and community.
developing community partnerships, promoting empathy and kindness, cultivating a culture of belonging, and implementing intentional policies and practices to.
There's
I mean, I guess this is like an if-then statement, right? Kinda. It's
Yeah.
in the way what we're trying to say.
If we do all
If we
these
do
things,
A,
then-
this B will happen,
Yes.
right? So,
I think it's to address, so it would be like, together, we are committed to if it was like, together, we're committed to developing purposeful policies, practices, and community partnerships to address disparities, foster empathy and kindness, and build a culture of belonging, something like that.
Mm.
Yeah, yep,
Mhm.
You scroll down, I typed it,
type it, yeah.
that the last
Oh,
one.
good, okay.
Together we are committed to developing purposeful policies, practices, and community partnerships to address disparities, foster empathy and kindness, and build a culture of belonging.
Do we have to say like the together part? Like that feels weird. Like can we just say we are committed to?
Yeah, we definitely can. I just pulled that because you had it in the old one. Like, we had it in the old one.
Oh, we did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it starts with.
You could just do,
Feels like one more word.
does the word community need to be there? Could just be policies, practices, and partnerships.
ooh, that is fun. I do like a 3P
Nice and alliterative.
format.
Wow.
I am comfortable removing community, cause it could be partnerships that are beyond just community.
And we've used community at least, that's like the
Yeah.
third time
Sure.
within the statement.
Good point, Mary.
Developing.
Or you can just leave partnerships, that's
disparities,
four.
foster empathy,
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah,
Oh,
left
you
just
did.
partnerships, yeah,
Address
yeah,
disparities.
and build a culture.
It might be
of
too many
belonging.
Ps now, though. You might need to get rid of
Less Ps,
purposeful.
fewer Ps.
Well,
Committed
yeah,
to
developing
developing-
policies, practices,
Yeah.
and partnerships to address disparities, foster empathy and kindness, and build a culture of belonging. Do we wanna end on the disparities though? Like, so that is the, like, the focus of that sentence, like, we're committed to fostering empathy and kindness, building a culture of belonging, and developing policies, practices, and partnerships to address disparities, like, that way that's the
I kinda like the ending being about
belonging.
belonging
Mm.
Yeah,
and community and culture and.
yeah, I thought about that flip, but it's the last sentence
So,
of the
yeah.
whole thing, so I feel like it,
Belonging is the vibe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Option 22.
where's the abilities? Oh, here it is.
We need a synonym for commit, cause we already used that, right?
Oh god, okay.
Pledge.
We pledge.
Hmm. We are,
Promise.
Oh, promise. We pinky swear.
No, I can't.
Sorry.
oh, well.
But you can't go back on that.
That would vibe with my first grader. I'm just saying, pinky swears are pinky swears are very important in my house.
We get it.
So we already put we commit, so we
Yeah.
don't wanna put we are
No.
committed, we wanna do something else, we wanna say we,
We will,
We-
or,
We could just say we will develop policies, or like
we,
Like dedicated, we're dedicated to,
Mm. Dedicated might go better in the first one, and commit might be better in the second
Yeah.
one.
we are dedicated to fostering.
focused. Where's the first one? We are dedicated to,
Yeah.
I don't hate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. We're dedicated and then we commit. It's like an engagement and then a marriage at the
Yeah.
end.
I would say we commit versus we are committed, just for that passive voice,
Yeah, it's passive voice on the top too, I was just thinking we have to change that. We,
yeah.
So if we're trying to change it from a passive voice, we strive to foster and inclusive, or
Mhm. That's a good one.
Or we will foster, right?
you guys are very confident today.
I'm
I'm just feeling like, look, I'm gonna try my best.
I think strive is a good word.
I let you know.
where are we putting, what word? I'm confused. I'm also getting rid of the yellow for a second.
So we strive to foster an inclusive and equitable educational environment.
I don't know, that sounds weird.
No? Okay.
We
I don't care
strive
about,
to
I don't care about the
foster.
passive voice. Y'all brought up the passive voice.
Dedicated is the right one, I just checked it like 3 times, like it's, we are dedicated to fostering is
It's good.
grammatically okay.
Yeah.
Like,
It-
we strive to
but-
foster just sounds
Yeah, it doesn't
weird.
work, you
Yeah.
can't, like, I think that is actually right, even though we commit down at the bottom, like I don't think they have to be the same, cause the sentence structures are different.
Okay.
Who's
So-
taking AP English, Victoria? William?
Okay, so
No,
somebody
not me
read
either.
that
It's
out
okay.
loud and
You're gonna-
see what it sounds like.
One of the youths. I wanna hear it from a
Yeah.
youth.
Do we have a
Yeah,
Yeah,
theater?
you can do it. You can get it. This is your vision, girl.
In the North Kingstown schools, we envision a learning community where all belong. We are dedicated to fostering an inclusive and equitable educational environment that celebrates diversity, embraces individual strengths, and ensures that all are empowered to reach their full potential. Members of the NK educational community of all races, ethnicities, languages, religions, socioeconomic statuses, genders, gender identities or expressions, countries of ancestral origin, sexual orientation, interrupted education status, disabilities, or backgrounds will thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. We commit to developing policies, practices, and partnerships to address disparities, foster empathy and kindness, and build a culture of belonging.
You have an exceptional reading.
I was
Oh,
gonna
it
say.
sounds so
Okay, so
nice.
you should work for an audiobook company and that could be your vibe, you just said,
Yes.
great job, Victoria.
She's the only one who's
Victoria.
allowed to read it now. It's fine. Only you.
The only thing that caught my ear, was like the NK sounded weird, like in that third paragraph, members, it originally was members of the NK educational community.
Mhm.
I don't know if we wanna put North Kingstown or if it's just implied, like members of this educational community. I don't know if we need to say North Kingstown twice or 3 times.
Members of the educational community, members of,
We can say R, that's different than the R before.
yeah.
Well, there's no, like,
I think in the first sentence, once you
Do we
say
need
North
this?
Kingstown schools, you have said it.
Like, it's
Yeah.
implied.
Right.
yeah,
And then you can use ours every time.
could you just
Until
do,
Erin gets to a sentence, she doesn't like the R's.
Ooh.
no, it's okay, it's just when it's in a
Oh,
possessive.
I like this, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
like my employees, I don't like
Yeah.
that, like, no, like it's, they're the, like,
They're their own.
I don't like
person.
ownership.
They're their own person.
always, do
No,
you
I like
need,
that, yeah.
could you just do it like that?
Mhm.
I like it. Again, it's bold. I like it.
Mhm.
Let's see what it looks like.
Do we have like the right mix of plurals and
Okay,
not
it's
plurals
okay.
there? Cause I noticed like,
What part?
I looked at, status earlier, and status or statuses are both
Okay,
acceptable.
cause I heard
Yeah.
Victoria read statuses, right, so is that,
Yeah, I think status or statuses are
Okay.
acceptable.
As a plural.
Yes.
For
Yes,
which
okay.
one?
Interrupted education status.
and socioeconomic status, so it can
Yeah.
be either or, like statuses or status?
Yes.
And
I
what
think
about-
status is more common.
Okay. Okay. Alright.
I don't know, like I keep going back to Jen, the statement that you read, you know, from the other district, you know what I mean? It just, it feels like that third section is like the statement, and that the rest of it is kinda like, it doesn't, I don't know if it's just me, but it just doesn't feel like it kinda flows naturally within the statement of what we're doing. It feels like we have a statement, and then we have a list, and then we have a statement. I don't know if it's just me, it feels, the flow is weird to me.
When we eliminated the part before all races, I felt it flew.
It just feels like
It flowed more naturally with the words before all
I
in
kind of
that
agree.
third paragraph.
I agree.
So, edit, undo? Is that what
I
you're
don't
saying?
know, like, I mean, when you read that one earlier, I felt like that was a statement that sort of, it felt like there was like a natural working of it. This feels like, I don't know,
Okay, we can work
Well,
on
right
this.
now it doesn't feel like a natural work in, yeah, I agree.
As Victoria read it, I think it was, as it was written then, it seemed to flow more seamlessly.
So you're talking about the one, Rob, where it said, to this end, we create policies and practices that are fair and just to ensure that every student, regardless of race, color,
Yeah.
religion. So could we move we commit to developing policies and build a culture of belonging for students of, or for however we phrased our, like, build a culture of belonging for all, and then move that to the end?
like move the third part to the end?
No, move like the last paragraph up.
I'll show you.
And blend the second into it.
Mhm.
It'll be a really long
Yeah.
sentence.
So you're switching paragraphs 3 and 4?
Yes.
I
Three is getting
understood.
tagged on to 4.
I messed around with the sentence a little bit, so if you go back to, if you show them option, I don't know, whatever we're on, 8, 7,
One.
8, whatever, 8. I don't know if this helps, Rob, but I wrote like community members of blah 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 will thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. Like I just made it more of a sentence.
Mhm.
Nope, still doesn't work for you. Okay. And I flipped it. This is Jen's suggestion. What was the original language that you all liked before we got rid of that one?
Well, we could just say, like, we commit to develop, like, move that up and say build a culture of belonging so that community members of blah, 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 blah will thrive.
Okay, hold on. Option 10.
I don't mind the way, like, I like the bow, the sort of the culture of belonging puts on it. I think it's a nice little button.
Like Jen, you're saying combine these two?
Like, I think what I'm hearing Rob say is he doesn't like the, categories, for lack of a better term, by themselves, like as a standalone. Is that what I'm hearing?
A little, yeah, like it's just, I don't know, like again,
It's okay. It's a long list. Like it's
it's
not. You're,
it's a
you're
long
not saying.
list,
I hear what
and,
you're
and
saying.
I also
Yeah.
feel like the way it's gonna be read is that's gonna be the focus of a lot of people, and I feel like we don't have every group in there. We don't. There's gonna be more groups, there's more groups now that we're not mentioning, and there's gonna be more groups that are going to emerge over time. I feel like that's become the focus of the statement. And again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I think like identifying marginalized groups is important. But I also feel like it just feels like it's dominating the statement. You know what I mean?
Alright, that's what you're left with if you get rid of it. Option 11. I'll get to 20 people. Don't even kid. Maybe that'll be the one. What's today? The
Well,
21st.
I'll go back to option 3, which is what Mr. Alvin sort of suggested from
The
before.
asterisk, business.
you know, like, I don't know,
I have to, like, the point is that there are groups, like, I'm gonna name
Yeah.
it, there are groups that are, like, negatively impacted currently, where there are disparities,
just,
where
and
there
I'm
are.
very much, I'm
No,
very
I think
aware,
what
of it.
Rob
I'm
was-
very aware of it.
Right, so,
You
and I
know,
think to
like-
eliminate that from the statement waters down the reason why we're putting this statement out there.
Rob did just say though, that if you go back to option 3, that option 3, it's still there, it's just not like in
Part
the
of the
flow.
sentence,
Yeah, it's just
okay.
not part of the sentence, so I did hear, it's still there, but it's not part of the sentence. Perhaps we should have Victoria, our audiobook reader, read it like that, and we'll see, you know what I mean, like.
Well, this is with all the stuff that
Hold
Mr.
on, I'll
Bell
change
Yeah,
it.
we have to go back
Nope,
to
hold
the-
on, I'll fix it. We'll go back to option 12 or whatever. So that option 12 would look like this. So it'd be like that, and then we would
I think
grab.
we should pursue a career. I mean, there's like work for this.
Yeah,
There's
I
like
thought
things.
about it.
Really?
A little bit.
Okay.
Well, a lot of my teachers would have me be like the class reader.
You're an excellent reader. I would do that too.
Yeah, I'll be your agent. We'll talk later.
Yeah, William, I'm sure you're great. He's like, I'm never in this committee again.
Okay, so. Alright, so Rob, option 12.
I'm reading it.
Would look like that. And like usually a little asterisk would be smaller. Usually.
So while you do that, I'll just throw another option out here. There's one of these which has something that says that, you know, student backgrounds do not limit teacher expectations of student outcomes, or student backgrounds do not, you know, limit student outcomes. Like, that's one way of putting it in there without
Listing
naming everything.
I will again though advocate for the fact that in my 1.5 year experience on the school committee, one thing that I've learned about my town is that there is a huge learning gap around who needs equity, what we are talking about with equity, and what we are working towards, and I think it is very limited here. Like, a lot of the citizens in this town, like, just talk about race, or they just talk about, and I'm like, no, it's
So
much
much
bigger
more
than that. And
yeah.
so, I'm fine with option 12 as like a compromise. I do understand, like, I do think it gets very hard, like, flow wise, but like I would be really uncomfortable if we didn't have those there, because I have learned from firsthand experience of people telling me like they don't think of equity like this in this town, not everyone. And so I do think that we have to help folks understand and learn, and having it very clearly there is part of that, for me at least. But I also really understand what Rob is saying about how it gets to that, it's a long list, right? And it's long because it's important, and we're trying to be as inclusive as possible. I don't love option 12 though, but I don't know a better solution.
So for option 12, the asterisk at the bottom, it contains "or will
Oh.
thrive academically, socially, and emotionally." That should come out and be placed elsewhere.
It would go here. Hold on. I'm gonna help on this. I just made that's not right, so don't freak out. I was trying to get all in again because we had it in the other two.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. I don't know. But I don't.
And we took out, after abilities in the, asterisk area, we took out the or background.
And again, that should be
Yeah.
disabilities, right?
Yeah,
Disabilities.
disabilities
Yep.
and put,
Oh, sorry, that was.
and include or background.
So you want or background there? Is that what I'm hearing?
It was there previously.
Yeah, sorry. I must have just unintentionally deleted it, and then I need to change this.
Alright, we should have you read it
And
again.
thrive instead of thrives.
Yes.
Got that.
You got it. Thank you.
Okay, we're ready for another reading?
Victoria?
Yeah, ready? Okay, let's do it.
In the North Kingstown schools, we envision a learning community where all belong. We are dedicated to fostering an inclusive and equitable educational environment that celebrates diversity, embraces individual strengths, and ensures that all are empowered to reach their full potential. We commit to developing policies, practices, and partnerships to address disparities, foster empathy and kindness, and build a culture of belonging to ensure all in our community thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. And then should I read the asterisks? Races, ethnicities, languages, religions, socioeconomic status, genders, gender identities or expressions, countries of ancestral origin, sexual orientations, interrupted education status, disabilities or backgrounds.
Okay, so, okay, beautiful.
And
Well
should
done.
it be educational status
Did we forget that?
instead of interrupted education status? Be educational?
I think it was education.
It was always like that, but we could change it.
I just
I did Google it, and the way that the internet talks about it, it says interrupted, the acronyms, interrupted formal education. Like that's how they say it, and then it's SIFE, students with,
I think we pulled
Interrupted
it
formal
off of
education.
our letterhead, didn't we? Isn't that where it came from?
too though.
I know, it could be, but I feel like that's where we got it.
I don't think that one's in there. I think we did that one here.
No, interrupted education status?
You think is there?
Yeah, oh, yeah, I.
We got that from somewhere.
I'm reasonably confident
Yeah.
that it came off of our letterhead. I'm looking at it right now, yeah. Interrupted education status.
Education's.
So then, okay, so now that we have it in an asterisk form, which I don't hate, what if it then, like, it's the asterisk starts with like all, like the ALL, which we've capitalized and made a thing, like all means, and then da-da-da-da-da, and then if you do, and then that whole
Yep.
thing about if you do not see yourself represented here, that goes at the end of that asterisk
Mm.
part, right?
Mhm.
So it becomes a little bit more, so instead of saying like, should I read this, it's like, oh, all means blah, 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 and then if you're not,
Yeah.
da-da-da.
Yeah,
And
if
it's
you
less
don't see it,
afterbody,
yep,
right?
yeah, and it's less like.
And I still like the asterisk piece, cause it goes to there
Mhm.
Alright, wait, hold on.
as a
let's-
definition, but like, then it becomes a,
Yeah, and like
Full
whatever
on.
date, like you said, this is, like, we see you, and if you don't see you here, like, let us know, because.
So I like that a lot, I like that concept a lot, like the idea a lot, I don't know if it belongs in a statement though.
that's a hyperlink to his email address. So it'll say, and if you don't see me, you email Dave Aubin, I will personally, he will fix it. This is his thing.
I think all
That's
would
how
be
we're
okay
fixing
with
it.
that.
Yeah, we're good. Second, can I get a second? I see what you mean, but I think like it's good, I think it's good.
Maybe that would be at the bottom of the page then. And so this is still kind of part of the statement, whereas that would be at the bottom. If you do not see yourself represented or feel that you are represented, please reach out.
To whom?
You,
Dave.
obviously.
Yeah, for another 15 years maybe.
Thank God. Alright. I don't know, I feel like with the asterisk, it does sort of lend itself to being like slightly outside of the full, so I think it would be okay there. But, yeah, it is good too.
Hold on, I'm gonna show you what you just said too.
Another 15.
Option 15?
What, 15? How do we get there?
I don't know, we are though.
We skipped 13.
Did we?
Did we, maybe we deleted
It was
it.
unlucky,
I don't
it's like
know,
a
whatever.
hotel.
Yeah, I'm like a hotel.
Oh, don't
Um,
tell the Swifties, the
you know,
Swifties will be on
Swiftie
that,
over
we
there?
deleted option 13. Are you kidding me?
Did anyone else
Taylor
know
Swift's
this?
favorite
Never mind,
singer.
we'll talk about it later.
Wembley, I think it was out. How did she win? Alright, we're zooming in on 7 o'clock.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Simon. Oh my God, you guys, oh.
All means racism.
I knew we weren't
Don't
gonna
see
get to
yourself
all of
represented.
the agenda, but I really thought we were gonna get
We
past
have
So-
to finish
so
this,
I'm
we
gonna-
have to finish this.
I know.
So I'm gonna, I'm
You
just
cannot
gonna be this,
start.
I'm not gonna be this person, but I'm gonna pretend to
Don't
be
do
this
it.
person
Do it
right now.
fine.
So when if you don't see yourself represented in this list, please contact it. Well, I guess, no, okay. I'm
We're
sorry.
gonna just think it through.
I'm just thinking like, you know,
Who
I
was
mean,
that? Yeah, yeah.
you know, like just different,
Is there a
Hold on, let me write it a different way.
Yeah, I don't like that.
A school committee person liaison for the community?
I just could see that being,
You have to make it like everlong though, and that's why I put just like something like contact the
Find a
NKSD
trusted
administration
adult.
because like you can't put the
no, I
chair of the
understand that,
subcommittee,
I can
like,
just
yeah.
see this being like a
I know.
joke type of thing.
You know what I think we can do though, cause we're gonna link to other things from this statement we've talked about, right? We're gonna have like a document where we show like, you know, the things that we've done, right, with the DEI subcommittee and things like that. I think we probably can put something on that
Yeah.
that says, you know, the equity vision statement represents, we talked about how we're gonna have to explain what the equity vision statement is, like, cause people aren't gonna write, and we can say in that, like, if you don't, you know, if you don't see yourself
Yeah.
represented in the equity vision statement, please reach out to, like, it doesn't have to be
Maybe
in
don't
the
put it in
statement
the
itself,
statement.
like, it
Yeah,
can be
yeah.
in a describer about it, that
Yeah.
way it's
I like
kind
that, I
of,
like that.
you know,
Yeah, just because I think that I think you're welcoming, not,
commentary,
yeah, and not constructive.
Yes.
Frivolity.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we can put it there. And it can be a talking point when we're talking about this through with, when we put this out, you know. We've made every attempt to, you know, be inclusive of, you know,
If you include authentically represented in the statement, that might eliminate some of,
I just know that based on,
I'm sure you.
yeah,
thought of
like
What do you
there's,
see?
yeah.
Yeah.
the email's being drafted already, don't you worry.
I think, and this is my philosophy on lots of things. You build it for those who need it. Not,
Yeah.
like you build it in the ideal of like somebody like genuinely being like, oh, like you know, like you didn't like. I think someone earlier mentioned trauma says like, hey, you didn't include that. Did you think of that? Was that intentionally not out, or had you not thought of it? And then we'd be like, oh no, we like you know like. So I think it's you have to build it for the ideal, and then if you get the ick, you get the ick. But I also think it's fine to put it on the website and not in the statement. I don't think it belongs in the statement.
So did we move away from the asterisk? Did I miss that?
It's one of the options still.
Definitely one of the other.
I was
This is-
working through what Jacqueline had suggested about like in the beginning of the statement defining it, like it circles back. But
Oh.
we don't have to.
That was not my suggestion. I was suggesting putting that in the asterisk still.
Oh, okay. Hold on, I'll move it.
We are closing in on 22 as well.
No, this. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought you meant, right? Like in
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
asterisk, we
because-
say,
And that way when you get to the asterisk, when our beautiful reader gets to the asterisk,
they know what the asterisk means, yes.
it's still a sentence for them to read, instead of a,
Yeah.
do I read this like, oh, all encompasses da 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 da
Yeah.
da. I think that would be more clear if you were reading it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yes. Okay.
What?
I feel like almost got a cricket out there.
I know, you hear crickets.
It's an actual cricket.
When there are actual crickets in the classroom, and you hear them, and you're just like,
too,
And they
right?
just
It's like
take
the
out
sentence and
residents
then
in
another
DMS.
paragraph, right? It's not
Oh,
like-
it's supposed to
That's-
be-
That's the DMS lore anyway.
What's wrong?
Like, it's supposed to be, in North Carolina School Being Visual Learning Community where all belong, period, new paragraph,
yeah.
right? Okay.
And then this would be.
Yeah. Okay. And so the only difference from that, from what Victoria just read, is we just added the word all after the asterisk, correct?
And the wording
And
encompasses.
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 We made it a sentence
We made it a sentence instead of like a thing. Okay.
instead of just the list.
How does everybody feel about option 16?
So good about it.
So good.
So good.
So
Love
good.
it. It's so good.
It's the best thing I've ever seen. Okay.
Oh, and then Erin had to add
So,
that line and ruin it.
We're
I
just
think-
like consensus.
I mean,
Do you
I-
have
I think-
consensus?
Oh, yeah.
Mary's
I need-
making it, Mary
Yeah,
wants
I
to
need
digest.
to, like, yeah,
Okay.
I need to digest.
Digest,
it.
for
Oh,
sure,
yes,
for
yes,
sure,
yes,
for
Yeah,
sure,
if I like
yeah.
have to like pick, like right now,
Yeah,
yeah,
Okay.
okay, so will you be emailing them to us? The
We can
Google
send-
Doc,
we
and
can
then
send
we
them
can
link.
see
So-
the different
Yep.
options? Okay.
So we have a lot of options.
No, option
Yeah.
16 is our best. That is where I feel you all have landed right now. So I would look at, you could go backwards to see the history, but like option 16 is where we're, like, it's kind of, I think, where we're at now.
Yeah.
But if you don't like option 16, that's what I would give feedback on.
Got it.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
not sure if I'm committed to the asterisk thing, cause I tend to think in general, when things appear with an asterisk, they're relevant, but maybe not as important. So that's what I wonder if that might get skipped over, but I think
Okay.
it may have been where I was more like with 12 or 14, we didn't have 13, I guess.
no, we skipped
Did we
13.
skip?
Okay.
So let's say this, we're definitely not, I mean, we need to obviously like process a little,
Mhm.
so I
Yeah.
think that maybe we can bring this back to our next group meeting. Would that
Yes.
be, but we will, for now, work off of this option 16 as our latest draft, if you
Mhm.
will.
I think so, right?
Yes.
And can we simultaneously maybe work on?
I would show it back to admin
Yeah,
and show
back
it
to
to
admin
students.
and show it to
You know, like,
students
Definitely.
simultaneously, cause I think our goal had been to have this rolled out by the beginning of the school
Yeah, I
year,
know.
obviously, we're not
we're
there.
close.
yet.
Yeah.
We're really close.
We're getting there, yeah.
Where's
Does
Abby?
anyone wanna
We-
take on like elementary school feedback? Is there
So,
like anyone who can do that
so
easily?
Jen, sorry, but you mentioned admin,
Just,
right?
because this,
Revisit.
this looks very different from
It
the
does.
one
Yep.
that you
Yeah,
had
we
brought.
heard their feedback and we made some of
and
their
you said also,
changes.
did you
Elementary school.
elementary students?
Yes.
Okay, so just logistically,
Yeah.
okay? I'll, I'll work on that.
Okay.
We'll work on that,
Okay.
okay? We'll work on that.
Okay,
I'll huddle with
Yeah.
our elementary team
Yeah.
and we'll come up with
Yeah.
something.
I'll go to Augusta.
yeah.
All right.
I did make an option 17.
Okay.
I am nothing but thorough, Rob. It,
Gotta take that access away.
17
Take
is
her eyes.
where it kind of actually probably is close to the option 1. I just put the
you moved it
definition.
back.
Rob won't
Oh,
like this
okay.
Moved it
version.
back.
Rob won't
Oh,
like
okay.
it, but I moved it back as a sentence like that.
Okay.
Just for
Great,
you
just,
to
Yep.
just to
Can I-
see.
Can I ask a question?
Just for
With
funsies.
option 16, would we change the font to like italics or anything on that, to kind of just kind of address the point you talked about, how it kind of like just goes on the side, your concern, if we made it italic, it's separate from the statement, but it pops out normally with the italics.
That's a good idea.
I'm wondering if, I don't know how that would look. I don't know if we need an option 18.
I'm gonna
Option
make one.
18.
Well, I just made 16 with your italics because I felt
Yeah.
like that was close
Yeah.
enough, but alright.
Okay, so,
Motion to adjourn.
but do I feel like we're all at like the wording where like we pared it down to like the wording, it's just a matter of like kind of moving and like, okay,
It's
So,
number 18.
With italics.
we will get through this
No,
and
no,
move
this
on
one
to
is-
other business, I promise.
Yes, you will.
I absolutely pinky promise. but thank you for going through this again. But I think we've actually ended up better than where we
Way
started,
better.
so I think that this was worth it.
Definitely.
And so maybe that's the solution, is we wait 6 months between doing things, and then we move forward, so.
No, it's a good conversation, for sure.
Yeah,
It is.
and I thank everybody for going through it,
Yeah.
18 times. But I wanna be respectful of people's time, so our next meeting is September 18th.
Which is the number of options we have.
So 18 is where you define it before you get into the statement,
Okay.
and then you just go in.
Oh, I like
So,
that
cause then you
one.
know what
Oh,
all
you know?
means.
Oh, okay.
So you can marinate on that.
Well,
Alright.
Mary.
See you in a month.
I will make a motion to adjourn, can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Rob's like, I'm ready. And we're here before there is an option to